Hello and welcome to today's lecture, Social Engineering Attacks with Social-Engineering Toolkits. The Social-Engineering Toolkit is a utility on Kali Linux that allows us to perform reconnaissance against a target. During this lab, we're going to demonstrate the use of some of its available attacks. First thing we need to do is log in as root with a password of root spelled backwards, T-O-O-R. Once we are logged into Kali Linux, we want to open a terminal window and type the command SE Toolkit. That starts the Social-Engineering Toolkit utility, and it asks us to agree to the terms. We'll say yes. So once we're into the utility, we can see there is a menu that comes up. This reconnaissance tool is completely menu driven. You don't have to know a lot to do the attacks, the reconnaissance with this tool. So it's a tool we have to worry about because script kiddies can get a hold of it and run these attacks. So the first thing we want to do is hit 1 to go into social engineering attacks. That's the type of attacks we want to perform. We get to a submenu. In the submenu, what we're going to do is a website attack vector, meaning we're going to set up a website that the victim will go to, and we will try to get information using social engineering from them by using a website. Once we're into the third submenu, the type of attack we want to perform is a credential harvester attack. A credential harvester attack would be one where it's going to get them to put in their credentials because they think they're logging into a legitimate website, and I'm going to copy those credentials to a file so that I can see what they typed at the login prompt. There's 3 options in here. Of course, we've got this custom import, which is for more advanced users. But the first 2 options are pretty easy. Number 1 is a web template, which has copies of common websites, popular websites that people go to, such as Twitter and Facebook and Google. And we can clone those websites so that somebody thinks they're logging into the Facebook website or a Google website. The website will look exactly like you would see it if you are going to the real thing. So it's a phishing website. The second option, Site Cloner, is if you have a website such as a bank's website or a website of a company. If you press 2 and enter the URL for that company, it will pull down the entire website and make a copy of it so that you have an exact duplicate of a website. For this exercise, we're going to go ahead and use the templates that are in there, mostly because we're not connected to the internet. So we'll do number 1. So it's going to set up the website. The way that it works is by cloning a website. We're going to clone the Chrome, the Google login website, and then it's going to get them to put their credentials in the form on the website. So when that happens, we have to be able to send them, or we have to tell the utility what IP address we're going to be using to host this phishing website. So the harvester, where we're collecting the credentials, can be on the same web server as the phishing website, or it can be on a separate website or a separate server, and the post information just gets sent to another server. So we can either keep everything on one server, or we can move this log of all of this information people are typing into a secondary server. For this exercise, we are going to do the 192.168.9.2 IP address. That's the IP address of this Kali Linux box. Now we have to choose which web template we want to use. We are going to use the Google Web Template. So we're going to push number 2. All right, it says it's cloning the Google website. We're going to go ahead and hit enter to let it know that we understand the message that says we may have to move our files to a different folder. Notice we have a prompt at the bottom in blue. It says the credential harvester is running on port 80. Your information will be displayed as it arrives below. Go ahead and do a screenshot right there. That's going to be our first screenshot that proves that we did the lab. Moving on to the second part of the lab. They want us to open up a new terminal window. So we will say new tab. And what we're going to do is edit a configuration file. That's going to tell Social-Engineering Toolkit what to do after the person types his credential information. We don't want to leave the person just sitting at a prompt someplace. What we want to do is move that person to another, maybe legitimate website, so they don't even know what's occurred. If they notice something funny's going on, if it doesn't go to a legitimate Google website after, then they're going to start thinking maybe this was a phishing website. Something's going on. We don't want them to even have a clue that we just took their information. So we're going to edit this file and tell it what to do after the person types in his credentials. If the person suspects that his credentials have been stolen, he's going to go and change it immediately, and we don't want that. Okay. So we're looking for the line that says Harvester Redirect. We're going to change it. We're going to turn the Harvester Redirect on. And what we're going to do is send them back to the same website. If we were doing this in real life, we would forward it to some Google website so that, like I said, they would have no clue what had just occurred. So now that we've updated that with the option on, and we've updated the IP address of what website we want to redirect them to after, we're going to go ahead and save it by hitting Control X, and yes, and enter. Now that we've entered that, we've entered those configuration informations, we want to go back to the Kali tab where we have the credential harvester running. We can see that it's still running, and we're going to switch over to the other Linux box and actually use the phishing website so we see what it looks like on the victim's end. So we're going to dock Kali. We're going to connect to our other Linux box. The credentials for this Linux box is osboxes, and the password is oxboxes.org. After that system boots, we want to open up Firefox. In the URL bar, we want to put the IP address of the computer running Kali Linux so that we can see what the social engineering toolkit shows a user who goes to the website, the phishing website. Normally this would look perfect. It would look exactly like Google's website. It's missing a logo here because we're not connected to the internet. So what we're going to do is put some fake credentials in here just so we can see how it works. In the email field, we're going to put John Smith with a password of let me in. And we're going to click sign in. Notice it sends us back to the same web page. Like I said, by editing that text file, we can send them to a legitimate Google website, and maybe even pass their credentials to the new Google website so that the user doesn't even know what happened. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip back over to my Kali Linux box. Notice that we have a log here that says we have a hit. It told me that somebody put in a username called John Smith and a password that was let me in. So we can see it's actually telling me when people log in the time and the date, and it's giving me their credentials that they typed into the form. It's also saving it to a text file, so I don't have to be sitting at the terminal to read it. So what we're going to do is we're going to hit Control-C to stop this script from running. Notice it tells us right here, this is where the log file is that contains all of the credentials that the phishing website has harvested. We're going to get out of Social Engineering Toolkit, 99, 99, 99 again. I'm back at my prompt. So I'm going to change to that directory that was presented in the log when we exited the tool. So we're going to say cd root .set. The period that begins the name makes the folder hidden. The SET stands for Social Engineering Toolkit. And there's a folder called Reports underneath there. And I'm going to do a directory listing, and we can see it created a file. The file is time-stamped with when it was created. We're going to go ahead and cat that file so we can look and see the contents of it. Notice it has the same information that I saw on the screen before. We have the email and the password that the person typed in. This tool is dangerous because it's real easy to use, and somebody without a lot of knowledge can load up Kali Linux and run this tool to set up a phishing website. It's good for penetration testing because it allows me to use a menu-driven tool to do my reconnaissance against my the IT systems of my client. Go ahead and do a screen capture here. This is the second screen capture that you want for your homework. I hope you enjoyed the demo, and I'll hope to see you soon again.